Hi, I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking. And this time I've been thinking about planning a trip. And maybe you can guess, but the reason I've been thinking about planning a trip is because I'm planning a trip. And I know that good planning can make a huge difference to how successful the trip is. So I've been on lots of trips in my 50-something years, and I'm usually always planning something for the future. And I've been thinking about how much better I am at planning trips now compared to when I was younger. And I've also been thinking about some of the mistakes that I've made over the years and the things I've learnt from them. So I thought it would be useful to make a video, both to remind myself about how to plan a great trip, but also to share some of my tips and some of my mistakes in the hope of helping other people. So let's get ready to go on a trip. Well, once I've decided where I'm going on my trip, I like to do some research about the place. And I've usually already done some research before deciding, but not always. Sometimes I let the price decide where I'm going. And actually that's just reminded me of when a lot of holidays used to be allocated on arrival deals. I don't know if anyone else remembers those, where you didn't know where you'd be staying until you landed at your destination airport. You'd have to get in the queue to speak to the holiday rep and find out the name of your hotel. And you'd be thinking, please let it be a good one. And I did loads of those deals when I was younger, and it was definitely a gamble. And some were good and some were awful, but they did used to be a very good deal. Anyway, I don't think those exist anymore, so back to doing some research. So if you're a similar age to me, you probably used to enjoy buying a travel guidebook or watching a TV show, but really those have mostly been replaced by the internet now. I have still got some travel guidebooks and maps that I'm a bit nostalgic about, but in reality I don't look at them because anything printed becomes out of date so quickly now. And you might not be surprised to know that I think YouTube is a great place to start. I love watching YouTube videos from some of my favourite travel destinations, even when I haven't got a trip planned, because it really gives me a nice feeling to be able to feel closer to being there. But really, I think any social media can be a big help when planning a trip, and I usually find some Facebook groups to join before I travel. And I've found that they can be a really great way to get some useful hints and tips from people who really know the local area. And those groups often have members who really enjoy helping other people to plan their trips, so it can be a nice, friendly community. And they can actually be really helpful for solving any problems that you come across when you're actually on your trip. So if you haven't already tried joining a Facebook group for your destination, I'd recommend giving it a try. For my next trip, I've joined some groups and I've watched some videos to help me build a list of activities and restaurants that seem to come highly recommended. And I can't wait to test out those recommendations for myself when I get there. And I've found it's also a good way to find some local knowledge about practical things like the tipping culture or whether places prefer cash or credit card. And if you're going somewhere that uses a different currency, those things can be really important to find out. So next it is time to think about packing for the trip, and I've got a few tips to share about that. So if you take trips regularly, I think it's a great idea to make yourself a reusable list for things to pack and things to prepare for your trip. And I love my packing list and I reuse it every time I travel, and it saves me loads of time. And it also gives me the reassurance that I know I'm unlikely to forget anything important if I'm using a list that's worked for me in the past. And also, if you find you get a bit stressed or anxious in the run up to a trip, I think having a pre-tested list can help to build your confidence that you've got it all covered. And I can remember a few years ago, after lockdown, when I hadn't been anywhere for a long time, I kind of felt like I'd forgotten what I needed to do. So having that tried and tested list to go back to was really helpful. So now you've decided what you're going to take, you need to actually pack it. And if you've never tried using packing cubes, that's my next tip. I love my packing cubes because they seem to make the whole process much more satisfying. Everything looks neat and tidy in the cubes, and it's really easy to unpack when you get there. And I also think they make you look quite professional if you have to have your luggage checked at the airport. And if I'm going to an airport, I always weigh my cases before I go. And I've got some travel scales that I take with me on my trips, so that I can check the weight of the cases before coming home too. Because I've been at a check-in desk at an airport before at the end of a trip and been made to open my cases and move some items from one case to another to balance the weight, which wasn't very much fun, and I didn't have packing cubes back then either, so it was quite messy and a bit embarrassing. And so now I use my packing cubes and I weigh my cases before I get to the airport, and it's all gone much more smoothly ever since. And my final tip about checked luggage, so that you don't have to learn the hard way like I did, is to never put anything precious in your checked luggage. So I used to take all of my favourite clothes and jewellery on trips with me, and I would put them all in my checked luggage so that I could keep my hand luggage nice and light. And I just assumed it would always be fine, and for many trips it was fine. And you probably know where this is going, but when I took a trip that had a connecting flight, I was one of those unlucky people at the final destination that waited and waited for my cases at the carousel, and it didn't come. So eventually I had to give up and leave the airport without my case, and I finally got it back about a week later, and lots of things were missing, including all my jewellery. So it still makes me a bit sad to think about that. So I wanted to share that story as a warning to other people to not be naive like me, and to not put anything precious in your checked luggage. So it's a rule to me now. If it's precious, I either leave it at home or keep it with me in my hand luggage. I'd never check it in. And I didn't even get any compensation for that because the insurance policy said that items of special value weren't covered. So anyway, no more sad faces. I've got over it now, mostly. And I just don't want that to happen to anyone else. So I'll finish with just a couple of tips about hand luggage. So as you know by now, my hand luggage will have anything precious in it that I've decided to take on the trip with me, as well as a few essentials for the first day of the trip, just in case. And it'll have my entertainment and my snacks, which I'm sure everyone thinks about. But the two things that I didn't used to take that I now wouldn't travel without are my noise cancelling headphones and my rechargeable handheld fan. So having those things with me has improved my comfort on so many journeys that I can't help but recommend them to everyone. And I've lent my fan to quite a few different people when they've commented that they wish they had one. Because travelling can be hot and noisy and claustrophobic, And the fan and the headphones can help to make it feel a bit better. The breeze from the fan is quite calming, and the noise cancelling headphones are great for drowning out the sound of engines or any other unwanted noises, so that I can actually hear and enjoy my entertainment, or even just enjoy some quiet thinking time while I look out of the window. So they work brilliantly for me, so I thought I'd share it with you. But don't forget to charge them before your trip, and actually keep a power bank handy, but not in your checked luggage. So I hope some of those tips will be useful to you when you're planning your next trip. If you've got any other tips, I would love to hear them. So leave a comment if you do, because I think anything that can make travelling a bit easier and more comfortable is definitely something worth knowing. So I hope you've taken something useful from this video, but I think that's all for this time. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.